What's up, everybody? It's your girl Michi G, and I'm back with another video. So, continuing on my topic of my transparency moments, I'm going to bring to you my next topic, which is addiction and grief and how it affects me. I'm going to get transparent about it. Before I get transparent about it, make sure I'm going to have to stop. Make sure you, if you're not already a part of my channel or a subscriber of mine, make sure you go ahead and click that subscribe button just below here. No, not the one in the video, but the one below the video. Click on that. Make sure you click on that bell so that you're notified as soon as I drop videos. And also, just to help me out with engagement, go ahead and thumbs up this video. Share it with a friend, tag a friend, spread the word, because over here on this channel, we're healing, we're working on ourselves, and I want you to be a part of that as well. Now that that's out the way, let's get into addiction and grief. Let's first start with the definition of addiction. I wrote down a few definitions that I came up with, just in case. Like, I think we all pretty much know what addiction is, but let me read some definitions just so you know exactly what addiction is. One was being enthusiastically devoted to a particular substance, thing, or activity. Another one was the physical and mental dependency on a particular substance and unable to stop taking it without incurring adverse effects. I think I said incurring. Maybe that's right. But anyway, without adverse effects. Also, not having control over doing, taking, or using something to the point where it could be harmful to you. The last one I found was that addiction is a response to human suffering and attempt to escape suffering temporarily. So basically, in a nutshell, to sum all of that up, addiction is the response to human suffering. If you are going through grief, if you've ever felt what it feels like to grieve someone, to lose someone that you care about, imagine that feeling and how bad that feels. So, of course, you got to know where I'm going with this, with addiction and grief. Now, I'm going to be honest and say that this video was inspired by a chapter in my book. If you have read my book, you know exactly the chapter I'm talking about. For sake of privacy and respect, I'm not going to get into all of that specific chapter. That's something that I am praying about and hopeful that I can work on behind the scenes, outside of YouTube, away from cameras and just public. Hopefully that's something I can work on with that person in private, and maybe if there's positive progress, maybe I'll share a little bit of that. But as far as that goes, in that specific chapter, check my book out to see what I'm talking about. The link will be below this video. But anyway, I'm going to get on my own addiction. This is something that I did not write about in my book because it's something that I discovered after the fact. If I'm being honest, I discovered it probably last year, the end of last year, around this time last year. It clicked and I was like, man, I think I have an addiction to this. So my addiction, if I'm being transparent and I'm being honest, my addiction is food. Now, I know you hear that and you're like, food? Like, wait, what? Is that an addiction? Yes. So first, before I get into how I realized that food was my addiction and how I used it as an addiction, let me give you a backstory. There's two things that I have always found comfort in whenever I had a bad day, whenever I was going through something. It's always been comforting for me to eat food, specifically sweets, but food, and then also listen to music. But when it comes to food, as a child, just a backstory, anytime I had a bad day at school, I would eat a lot of sweets. I would go grab up all the sweets my mom would buy and like hide them in my room and binge eat. Back then I didn't realize that's what I was doing or that it was food addiction, but it was. And then when someone would talk to me about maybe the weight that I've gained, you know, I'm going to pause that right there because that's a whole nother video that'll probably be coming out in a couple weeks or so. That's another topic for another time. But you see where I'm going with where my food addiction started. So to fast forward to last year, I realized that I had food addiction when I had a really bad day at work. I'm talking like just things weren't going my way. Anything that could happen happened. And on top of that, when I got a moment to myself, I started randomly thinking about how bad I wanted to just call my mom. I wanted to pick up the phone, call her, and just like, if you read the book, I kind of wrote about it. I would call my mom on a bad day, and without even saying, Mom, I'm having a bad day, she would know. And she would just have the perfect words to just help me out. And then that's that on that. So I think that particular day, I realized, like, I don't have my mom anymore to call. I just have to sit here and feel this pain that I'm feeling because I'm frustrated with work. I miss her and so many other things that go on. I realized that my natural response was like, let me go back into work. Let me buy up a lot of sweets. Any job I've ever had, for whatever reason, there's always a vending machine nearby. And so I literally would like buy up sweets. And I remember that particular day I would come home and I binge ate so many things. I didn't tell my husband, like, hey, this is what I had. I had this sweet, that sweet. Like, there's times when I went to Krispy Kreme's and bought like donuts and didn't tell anybody, but I just binge ate it. And it wasn't that I was hungry or I craved it. I was like, I'm upset. And like, I'm feeling the pain. And for me, sweets, I just have such a special, I don't know, if you've ever taken drugs, if you've ever had an addiction, you know what I'm talking about. But it's like, when I eat sweets or food in general, I overeat. It makes me feel good for a second, and it's like, oh, okay, I feel like I deserve this. So yes, I'm gonna overeat, I'm gonna overdo it. And then after, I regret it immediately. And I'm like, bro, what did I just do? I wasn't even hungry. And honestly, after the last couple of times I did that, I realized, like, that's not a good feeling. I hate feeling like I gotta throw up. Like, I would eat and eat and eat and eat, even if I wasn't hungry, until I would throw up, or at least I would feel super nauseous. And I just started to notice a pattern every time I had a bad day, or either whenever I would miss my mom. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to think about it. Let me just go and get this snack or that, or, you know. So to filter back, when we think about the addiction, you might be like, girl, that's normal. Like, we be stressed out, we eat. But like, think about those definitions of addiction. Like, that's something at that time I couldn't function if I did not binge eat anything, like overeat. I could not function. I would get so zoned into the fact that I'm just like, I'm upset, and I could not let it go until I just overate. And I think the last time I just got really sick, and I was like, I'm not finna keep feeling like this. I'm not fixing to keep hiding food. I'm not fixing to keep just using food to numb pain, and then at the end of the day, I'm hurting myself. And so I think that when it clicked that, like, okay, this is addiction activity, this is addiction behavior. Now that I identify it, let's work on it. So now, to fast forward and be transparent, I listen to my body more. Though sometimes I go a little crazy on sweets, I know when to pull back. I'm aware that that is something that, addictive behavior. So I know how to better scale it. I've also been trying to live a healthier lifestyle. So that helps tremendously. Just taking time to just really work on my mental. Because I feel like a lot of addiction comes from us not wanting to face or sit with different emotions and things. So I feel like right now I'm taking my time to do that. But I can't ignore the fact that that's a way that I have dealt with grief. Also, music too, in some ways. There were days way back when I would just sit all day and listen to music, the same albums over and over, and it would hinder, like, I would have a list of things to do for the day, and guess what? I did nothing. I just sat there and probably ate and listened to music. And so just be aware of the behavior that you display. I know my mom used to tell me all the time, sometimes addiction is passed down to you. So just to also be more transparent, I do in my family, outside of just, the one person, a lot of people in my family actually struggle with addiction of different things. Probably more than I even realized. And so to not just my mom, but other people like to say that, addiction runs in your family. Or the more that I'm becoming aware and I'm looking into it, I really don't think it runs in your family. I think circumstances run in your family. Your environment dictates, those addictive behaviors. Sometimes we're taught we don't have to sit and figure out why we're addicted to this substance or this thing. But there's some that, like, if you're strong, if you can just get your mental together, I've realized you can get a hold on your addiction. I know it's hard, I know it's tough, but it's possible. So I think the biggest step that I've realized with myself is just to become aware, just to identify it and work on it. Once you're open to that, be a work in progress, pretty much. Addiction is a common side effect of grief. One being that grief, if you felt grief, if you've never felt what it feels like to lose someone you love, it hurts. Let me tell you, look at me. It hurts. Like, it's a pain that I would not wish on my worst enemy, to lose someone that you genuinely love. So you got to know that, like, addiction is like the first response to handling grief, to numbing it. You want to numb it. So I think the realest thing to me is that everyone has an addiction of some sort. You kind of have to have an addiction, if I'm being honest, because look at the world. Look at what all we have going on in the world today. There's a rapper named Cause that has, I think he just released a song called Addiction, where he talks about this very same thing. Like, some people are addicted to porn, some people are addicted to food, to drugs, to alcohol. There's so many things you could be addicted to. Unfortunately, it is something that is normal. I think that we just don't talk about it enough. I think that everybody that you encounter on a day-to-day basis, they have an addiction to something. The cell phone is an addiction, if we're being honest. That is why I think that chapter in my book, The Remaining Parent, I think that chapter is the most relatable chapter. I think that other people identified with everything else that I personally was going through, but I really think more people are going to like, if you really read that chapter, I think most people will identify with that, because it's a struggle. Aside from it being an emotional struggle, a lot of us don't know how to handle grief. And I really think that more people will identify with that specific chapter. Moving forward, I think for myself, my solution to my addiction, I think I'm going to pat myself on the back right now. I'm making a video about it, but I know that I have come a long way with my addiction. I think now today, I really look into how my body's feeling. Like, what pains am I feeling? Am I hungry? A lot of times, I'm not even hungry. My stomach's not even growling, but I want to eat. I have an urge to eat something. So now I'm like, okay, am I genuinely hungry, or am I just want to, like, eat, So the solution for myself is, one, now that I've identified that, to continue to work on that myself. I am a very self-analyzing person. I'm real with myself. I know what my problems are. I think that my next step would be going to therapy. And it's not that I need help with identifying certain things. I've identified certain things within myself, but I think I need therapy to help piece those things together to be better, if that makes sense. So for me, the next solution for me would be to start therapy. I'm currently in search of a new therapist, so I'll update you guys on that. I'll probably start that at the beginning of next year. So whoop whoop. Cheers to actively working on yourself. Let's normalize it. Let's talk about that in the chat. But this definitely is going to be a reoccurring series. Probably maybe later next year, the end of next year, sometime soon in the far future. I'm going to do an update of this video and let you guys know how I've been doing with my addiction and grief. Whoa. So, but I just want to take the time to thank you guys for watching this video. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Stay tuned next week. We'll have a whole nother topic for a transparency moment. And I hope to see you there. Love you guys so much. Love you. Bye.